Welcome to B2B No Bull.
That's right, no double speaker gibberish, no talking heads. This is a safe place to talk about what you as professionals in the space can do to look like heroes to your bosses, make sales very happy, bring success to the organization, and that bottom line. Let's get started.
Well, hey everyone. Welcome back to another episode of B2B No Bull. This is where we try to avoid all the jargon and try to make some sense out of corporate chaos so that you can do your job better and you have knowledge to do it. I'm Liz Brohan.
And I'm Mark Brohan, her brother.
Today we're digging into a topic that is rather messy. What we want to talk about is the state of DEIB. And that means corporate alignment, and that means all kinds of things to all kinds of different people in the corporate world. What leaders should actually be doing as the political winds kind of shift. And we've got a real expert with us that we're so happy to talk about today, and that is Sarah Alter. Let me tell you just a little bit about her and why she specializes in this particular topic. So, first of all, she's a transformational growth expert. She is a board advisor. She's a former CEO of NextUp. And she is a woman who somehow manages to advise multiple corporations and is very instrumental in a capital campaign right now for a 97-year-old dog rescue institution, right?
Dog and cat.
Dogs and cats.
Yeah.
Let's not leave out cats. Okay. And then also she is the co-chair of a very large gala for a very important cause, and that is Breakthrough T1D, which was formerly JDRF. So welcome, Sarah. That is quite the mix of work that you do. And you call it fun employment, right?
I do. Well, no, thank you. Thank you, Mark and Liz, for inviting me to join you today for this conversation. Thrilled to be here. And yes, I am fun employed. I have to give full credit for that term to one of my friends, Megan Trout. So I know I'm going to have Megan listen to your podcast from here on out.
Thank you, Megan.
I'll do credit, Megan. But yes, fun employment allows you to do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And it gives you that ability to invest your energy into the things that you are most passionate about or the things that you love the most. And not lost on me, I'm so fortunate that I can do that.
I got to be honest, it sounds like you're doing a lot of bit of this and a lot of bit of that. So,
and these are not small causes.
No. They are truly passion projects. The first one, Liz, that you had referenced, Orphans of the Storm, located here in Riverwoods, Illinois. They've been around for 97 years. It's a dog and cat animal rescue shelter. And, discovered them a couple years ago. I volunteer there. I walk dogs. I hug dogs. I joined the board, and so proud of this capital campaign that they're raising. The building is as old as the organization. It is decrepit. It's 97 years old, and we've so far raised 12 out of the 15 million that we need.
Wow.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So if you're an animal lover, we still need that next 3 million to break ground. That's my first passion project. And then my second is my husband's a type 1 diabetic. I call him my sugar boy.
Aww.
And he and I have been engaged in, it was JDRF, but now Breakthrough T1D, they rebranded for 20 years now. And it has changed his life.
Oh.
And so we, volunteer however we can. And we got roped into, for the second time, being the gala co-chairs. And yes, we did raise $18 million last year in one night, and now we're on the docket to exceed that this year.
That is just incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Man.
I know. It's, thank goodness, because Breakthrough T1D is very much a research foundation, and it's focused on developing the cure for type 1 diabetes. So If you haven't donated, please do.
Please do.
And the gala is December 13th.
There
so it's
you
coming
go,
up.
everybody.
So where do you have time for fun?
Yeah.
Well, the gala is fun.
It's a theoretical, concept.
I know it's a lot of work, but the gala really is just a ton of fun too. So everybody should, maybe even attend, right?
Hey, we have 5 for fighting as the gala band. So
there you go.
Yeah,
that is
all the more
awesome.
reason.
So we're having fun here, but let's jump to the heart of the episode, which is we've been watching a troubling trend, companies scaling back, hiding, or reframing their DEIB efforts.
Yeah. It is
DEIB.
Yeah.
DEIB.
Yeah.
DEIB, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And sometimes you even see others add on it.
We're against acronyms here anyway, so I'm glad you said that out loud.
Right. Sometimes
Never do a podcast without your glasses, I'm telling you.
Yeah. I can't live without my glasses.
It makes you very dyslexic. So.
Yeah. No, sometimes you even see people add on J or SJ for justice or social justice. I am devastated. I am truly saddened by, what has unfolded over the past, year or so. Mark, you hit it on the head. You see leaders and organizations coming out and just making public statements that I will not invest another dime or minute in anything that has to do with DEIB. Or you see leaders and organizations going stealth. So they're quietly embedding those core elements that are crucial to a successful business. They're just quietly embedding them and then just, pulling back on any type of, public statement, or to your point, they're reframing it. They're communicating it in a more business-oriented way.
They're changing the language.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about business productivity, bottom line, more in the spirit of KPIs.
Fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, right?
Exactly.
Those are things that are very important to a corporation. And certainly many of these efforts can contribute to that.
Yeah.
I do want to talk about the elephant in the room as we discuss all this. And in my thinking, it's the D, right?
Yeah.
And that's the diversity. It seemed like that started to cause everybody to feel as though hiring had gone somewhere that it didn't need to go. And it's all kind of a fallacy, but it's very real.
Yeah.
In the way people talk about it and the language that they use. And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, if you look at the context of where it started and then how it started to unfold, it started more from a legal perspective, and you saw it happening in the colleges and in the universities and in the academic world. As lawsuits were being filed against these large academic institutions because of the diversity goals that they had put into place into their admissions strategy. Then you saw it shift from, the academic world to the business world. And you saw, states' attorneys now not only, taking the colleges and universities to court, but then you saw them taking large corporations to court. And
that'll shut it down fast.
Right. And you've seen just countless companies be taken to task, and that's what then started that whole wave of, I'm no longer investing in this, I'm no longer supporting this, I'm going to focus just on my bottom line and my stock price.
Well, you mentioned context just a minute ago. Some context here on this very troubling trend. Do you see this as just a sign of the times we live in, or a much more permanent long-term shift?
It's an interesting question. And, I will say this. I don't see it as a political thing, because I have had the good fortune to spend some time, you hear some who say it's a Republican thing. And I have had the good fortune to spend time, with a good number of Republican leaders who have, just said to me, this is not a political thing. right? This is not a Republican Party thing. This is, unfortunately, to your point, it is a very troubling time. And I think it's beyond politics. It's a societal thing.
Right.
And we've seen our society shift. And I don't think it's a permanent trend because we've seen a lot of pendulum swings in the past.
And I think you described it perfectly a minute ago, which I really wasn't aware of. You know, companies started to scale back because of lawsuits. I mean, nothing will scare a company faster than, you know, having to spend gazillions of dollars in a court case. I thought that was a really interesting insight, you know, so it's not necessarily that, you know, diversity is going to be completely off the table. We just have to figure out a way that we can do it in a way that doesn't cost corporations, you know, legal fees.
Yeah. And diversity too, like I think unfortunately it's overgeneralized to mean, you know, X number of men versus women, or, you know, Y number of white versus, you know, multicultural, right, you know, minorities. For me, it has always been more a reflection of the diversity of perspectives, right? You know, the diversity of, you know, I have different skills. I know different things. And that's what makes, you know, a business all the richer and more likely to be successful at the end of the day, because it's not groupthink, right? And
I would imagine that their customer base is diverse. So you need all of those perspectives, you know, and points of views just to make sure that you're providing a customer experience that meets everybody's needs.
Yeah, absolutely.
You mentioned a societal change just a minute ago. And as it applies to a business organization, how does that permeate? I mean, is this top-down driven? Is it HR driven? Is it the organizational driven? I mean, what is the genesis for the change inside a business organization, do you think? I mean, societal impacts, of course, but what do you think is, what's changing inside the corporation, let's say?
If you think about it, and Liz just mentioned it, and let's take Target, for example, right? And I, as the CEO of NextUp, I had the good fortune of being able to partner with them, and incredible CEO and leader, Brian Cornell. And he was, you know, one of our staunchest of supporters. And, you know, I would run into him at conferences, and he would talk about how he was focused on making sure that he was going to diversify his executive level team, and he was going to diversify, you know, his entire organization. And again, not by numbers per se, but he saw the value, the business value and impact that could happen. One, like you mentioned, Liz, they had a very diverse set of communities and customer segments that they served. Absolutely. And so you needed that thinking embedded, that diverse perspective and thinking embedded in your strategy and in your execution and your experience. And then two, just within the organization itself to breed innovation, right? And unfortunately, what we've seen unfold with Target is they, because of legal action, were forced to take that stance that it was communicated as it will no longer be a key priority. We're going to focus on the business and the customer. And so you saw protests and you saw backlash. And so from that macro perspective, from that environmental or societal perspective, that's what prompted Target, you know, to have to, you know, one, the legal course forced them to take the stance they did. And now two, this, you know, this second force of this backlash is now, you know, forcing them to take a look at, you know, do they continue that stance? You know, do they adjust it? And
I think
stay
that's
tuned.
Such an excellent point, because any leader listening right now is probably thinking, what do I do to move forward in this environment?
Yeah. And there's two core things they can do.
Excellent.
Okay.
Well, there you go. We get to learn something.
Yeah. No, that's actually the good news in all of this. Yeah. I mean, first and foremost, you know, what you need to do as you communicate your mission, right? Your purpose. you really need to connect it directly back to business KPIs. You know, as the CEO of a publicly traded organization, it's about your P&L and it's about your stock price. And so as you now communicate out in this environment, you need to be continuing to focus on, okay, what are those key external KPIs? And then what are those key internal KPIs that will directly impact them? Which employee retention is one, employee productivity, which can be measured, is one, you know, your level of innovation is another. You know, there's a whole series of probably more culturally driven or you know, softer skilled EQ type metrics that you can use, you know, internally to, you know, directly impact and drive then those external metrics. The second thing that you can do is really focus on, you know, what I call alignment. Because at the end of the day, it's all about, hey, how well aligned is your entire organization against the mission and the strategy? Like, as you look at what the organization is doing, does it directly connect back to your stated mission and strategy? How aligned is, as you operate, as you execute, how aligned is the operational execution tied back to the mission and the strategy? And then what type of alignment do you have internally between teams, between departments, between levels? You know, is there communication? Is there collaboration? You know, at the end of the day, your mission and strategy, if executed appropriately, it should deliver the right business results. And if you're being publicly traded, the right stock price. But if you look at it, it ends up at the end of the day really being a factor of alignment. You know, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging were all levers that were being used or should be used to drive alignment.
So this is interesting in the perspective that if you just gave two core pieces of advice here. So if the pendulum, though, is to swing back the other way, who has to champion that in this day and age inside the organization, do you think?
Oh, it's got to start with the CEO. Yeah. And at NextUp, clearly saw this time and time again that if you didn't have the CEO championing this, if you didn't have them investing in it and staying consistently committed to it as a priority, you were not going to see, you know, a sustainable, you know, business results at the end of the day. And more recently, as I shared earlier, I've been serving as a business advisor, and one of the phenomenal groups that I've gotten to partner with, Blue Spark, BLUSPARC, they have seen and had great success in partnering with C-suite teams, small to mid-sized companies, where they're focused on organizational alignment. And it's you know, served as a great proxy for a lot of what, you know, leaders and organizations were trying to do in the context of DEIB.
And you've actually developed programs that they can implement. You were just talking about implementation a minute ago. Can you tell us a little bit about that, what it is and how it's successful? No. So with the Blue Spark program, it's called the Organizational Performance Survey. And I have to give full credit to the Blue Spark team for having developed it. And I got to, you know, partner with them. I was first exposed to them. I was the CEO of NextUp, and I was able to leverage this OPS solution. And I used it firsthand with my own team. And it is an incredible solution, and it's very much it's a journey. It's not a survey; it's a solution, and it's a journey, and it gives you a holistic view as a leader into, okay, where do I have strengths within my organization? Where do I have gaps? Where do I have disconnects? And, you know, most importantly, where do I have blind spots?
So what do I need to address to ensure that my teams, my operations, my execution, it's all aligned to the mission and strategy that I want to bring out to the marketplace to deliver true business value. And it's a journey that an organization goes through, and it's most successful when it typically starts at that C-suite level. So the CEO steps up, brings his C-suite or executive level team through this journey, and then through this survey process, which generates a whole lot of data, fact.
Sure.
You're then able to decide, okay, well, where do I need to course correct? Where do I may need to redistribute resource? Where do I have misalignment? And sometimes even where do I have problem children? So do I need to, make changes, from, a staffing perspective?
Will the data itself show where to prioritize? Or that's something that would be up to the organization once the results come back?
It very much, it shows you, and again, what happens is it starts at the executive level, and then typically the journey will be embedded a layer down, a second layer down, all the way to the lowest level. And it could be, the data could be collected and then analyzed across departments, between departments at various levels. And so it's all, analyzed throughout the entire organization so that it can help you identify, do you, have an issue between marketing and sales?
Always.
Yeah, I know, right? Like you always want that healthy friction, right?
So it's great.
Yeah. Do you, have an issue? You've got the individuals who are most disconnected are at that middle tier, that frozen middle. You hear a lot about that frozen middle tier of leadership, and it's intuitive, and that it gives you that laser focus on, hey, here's where I need to dig into.
Right, because I imagine there's some real productivity to be made, particularly at that level.
Yeah.
And I know you've also incorporated other models within some of the discovery of these programs, the 70-20-10 model. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, no. Well, that's another great example of, as CEO of NextUp, my team and I developed, and full credit to my team. They're amazing. But they developed, it was a community and a solution called Beyond Allies. And alignment is just, again, it's another term for, okay, how well are we communicating, collaborating, partnering, right? And is there allyship within teams, departments, levels? And Beyond Allies really focused on how can we create a culture where we have stronger relational partnerships, better communication and collaboration. And it was built across two different foundations. The first is the 70-20-10 learning model. So 70% of all learning happens when you develop a new muscle or you learn a new skill and you put it into play. You do it. So, it's using that muscle, like when you exercise, right? 20% of learning happens then when you're partnering through different relations or relationships, within an organization. So it could be your peers, it could be your team, it could be your boss, a mentor, a sponsor. And then 10% of that learning happens through theory, through, content and curriculum. And the Beyond Allies program, again, which supports and helps create alignment. And again, you can find that program at nextupisnow.org. But it's built from that foundation, that learning model. The second element of it, though, is the emotional intelligence. So the
tell
EI.
us about that.
And that is, very much, really truly self-identifying, okay, what role should I be playing as an ally, as a partner, as a team player? And there are 5 core elements within that. There's awareness, like, okay, what biases do I have? What privilege do I have? Then next you've got choice. Like, I'm going to choose to step up and be a better partner. I'm going to choose to be a better collaborator. Choose to, be a better, just team player, at the end of the day. Then you've got, and I've got to peek at my motivation, what's motivating me. And in the case of male allies, what we saw in Beyond Allies, as we rolled this program out to thousands of men, more times than not, it was an emotional motivation. It was, I have a mother, a wife, a daughter, and so I want to be there to help other women. But you also saw a number of men and women who participated in the program that said, hey, it's the right thing to do, or it's the right thing for the business. Then, what you've got is empathy. It's, I appreciate you, I am with you, and, I need to be listening and learning, not necessarily just telling everybody what I think and feel, but learning and listening. And then, just that last thing is just learning the skills. It's basically learning the skills and then putting them to use, not only at work, but also at home, so that it becomes a habit 24/7. It's not just, it's a class or a webinar that I attended. It's skills that I'm actually developing. And so much of this can be done and still be communicated publicly from a business perspective, because all of this is going to lead to greater employee retention, greater business productivity, innovation, sales, bottom line, and then stock price, at the end of the day. There's a direct correlation.
Yes, and that has to be like a major key to success, because the 5 steps you were just walking us through are very much on the soft skills side of the fence, and they're very hard to adapt and maybe start by wrapping our heads around it, but then actually implementing those. So tell us a little bit more about how to go about some of that.
It ends up, what I've seen to work most successfully when you're a partner with an organization that wants to, drive this level of cultural and business improvement, is you need to step in with a solution, and you need to provide the roadmap. A lot of what I discovered when I first became the CEO at NextUp was there were a lot of nonprofit organizations out there, and they had a whole ton of research.
Sure.
But they didn't have business plans. They didn't have solutions that had roadmaps that allowed them, to guide them through what the organization needed to go through to deliver the business value, impact and results at the end of the day. And so it's going about securing that top-down, that executive level support. In many cases, human resources is a very key partner in helping to support and implement and execute. But unless you can demonstrate true business stats of how it's gonna drive that bottom line or that stock price, and have that business support from a couple of different business leaders, odds are it's just going to be the flavor of the month.
Well, does therein lie the key to success? I mean, you mentioned that the societal change and the top-down approach from the CEO on down, but I would think that's getting harder to do inside the organization in the times we live in. My core question to you is that the strategy, the roadmap people who want to do this change have to take, which is, hey, this is how it fixes the business, improves it, that type of thing?
Yeah. And the beautiful thing is, and we talked about earlier, as much as you've seen people shut down, go stealth, there are a handful of organizations, and go look at their stock price, they're doing really well, that have doubled down, tripled down. So you've got like Costco, J&J, Coca-Cola, Delta, Best Buy, another great one. They're being, well rewarded when it comes from a financial and a market perspective. And they're not, backing down. They're not going stealth. They are investing in it and seeing and reaping the benefits from it.
Those are great examples.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure everybody will be fascinated to go look some of that up too.
Yeah.
And I know that you've told us in the past that there's another dimension to the work, right? And not that I want to throw out more acronyms, right? But there's OPS, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. The Organizational Performance Survey that's part of all this. And it's got several layers to it.
Yeah. And again, that is the Blue Spark. And this is where I'm going to shamelessly plug them as well, because this is their solution. But
way to go, Blue Spark.
Blue Spark, yeah. Bluespark.com. And that is the solution and journey that I had referenced earlier. It's called OPS. And it starts with a survey process, but then they mine the survey results for the data, which helps to identify, okay, what are the blind spots that exist in my organization? So now me as a CEO or a C-suite team, where do I go in and invest or course correct or, make, fundamental, organizational changes? So so the OPS solution is one example, and then the Beyond Allies is another. But there's a third aspect that I think might answer that question as well. Yeah. I always love giving ideas. So that third idea is, and you've seen, organizations and leaders that have embraced this, they have reaped great benefit as well, is it's looking beyond just, the medical insurance, right? The doctor, the dentist, the vision insurance, but it's investing in other ways, so that your employees feel like, hey, I'm being seen as a whole person. Like, yes, I am an employee, but I have a family. I have a life outside of work. So where you see companies investing in things like mental health support. My husband's a professor at University of Chicago Booth, and he came home last week and he's like, we now have pet care insurance.
How about it?
So, so companies providing pet care. You see companies investing in, I have a good friend, Dylan Gomi. She has a company called Diligence. And it's somewhat of a mental health service provider, but they focus on going into an organization and helping them to build organizational resilience.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's a mix of, mental health, but also, driving the right type of energy and attitude. And, Michelle Buck, former CEO of Hershey, one of my favorite partners when I was at NextUp, she called herself CEO Chief Energy Officer.
That's a guy like that.
Very
and so
innovative.
For her,
yes.
She was it's all about the level of energy that sits within the organization. You see other services like I have a dear friend who has an organization that focuses on fiscal counseling and fiscal health for employees. So, companies invest in providing them with support and service to help guide them as they manage their own fiscal lives. And then, the last one, which I'm, so impressed by the companies that have maintained these, but it's developing the affinity-based communities and keeping them.
Yes.
And Nestlé is a great example of that. They had a whole variety of different affinity communities. One was based on mental health care, either for yourself or for someone in your family. One was based on caregiving. You're an adult or parental or caregiver of somebody who has a health issue in your family, and there's quite the emotional burden. Some are just based on, hobbies, but it's creating a way that really, enables someone to feel like they belong within an organization, that they are seen and they are supported. And when you feel seen and supported as an employee, you stay.
And they're thought of as a whole person.
Yeah.
Not just the employee part.
Yeah.
And I know the organization that I work for, they have a parents group, and I think it's brilliant.
Love it.
Love
it. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
goes
so that's
right along with some of the things you were talking about.
Yeah,
Yes.
so that's yet another way that, you can continue to invest in your employees, and you can continue to create the right type of culture and community that supports, top-tier business results.
Yeah. No, I think that's the biggest takeaway from our conversation today, that alignment really is all about business results, you know, whether it's productivity or performance, it's all wrapped into keeping the organization moving forward as an entire whole entity.
Absolutely.
That is great. Well,
and take heart, things do change.
It's always a pendulum.
It's always a pendulum. So
it's just, does it go 90 degrees? Does it go 180? But
right, but I think what we all learned today and what we saw from your expertise is there's a bright light, and this is bigger than maybe what we've all defined it as in our own lives, and corporations can embrace it because it really will drive business results.
And kudos to the leaders in the corporations that do and have continued to.
And to
Kudos
any
to
of our listeners today, I mean, these are discussions you can have at your organization and figure out together how to get the C-suite's attention or how to get HR's attention and, start to make these things happen, because B2B marketing might be a little behind some of the organizations that you mentioned as great role models for this. So it's great to understand more about those. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
This has been enlightening.
My pleasure. No, thank you.
I feel so much better. Isn't that weird? Because I thought this is such a heavy subject. And then the way you explained it and walked us through it makes it very, business oriented and very common sense. So,
absolutely.
I love that.
Oh, you did break your rule about an acronym, though.
We broke a few acronym rules.
I apologize for bringing that in.
We like to we shake things up here. We just do.
Exactly. Get a little crazy.
Yes, because none of those acronyms were really, bull,
Exactly.
I like that. She's good with the curveball. She's good with the curveball. So,
well, hey, I don't want to throw anybody a curveball, but I do want to thank Sarah for being here today.
Yes,
I really felt inspired by it. And I also feel inspired by our sponsors. So please let me talk about them for just a second. We love Embas. Embas is a marketing consulting firm that specializes in change management, content development, and marketing communications. And then, of course, our beloved The Motion Agency, who has recently been ranked the #2 fastest growing B2B marketing communications firm in the nation. And so congratulations to them. If you need any help with marketing and business consulting, please check them out. Thank you. And until next time, hey, go wherever you listen to your podcasts and rate us. Leave us comments. We'd love to learn what's on your mind and what we can be talking about that would, improve, your life in B2B marketing and just B2B in general.
And no bull.
And no bull. So until next time, no bull. Okay, everybody?